everyone, welcome to another Underrated Film Saturday, and today I am going to be briefly discussing The Rescuers Down Under, which is a Disney film that I think has gotten pushed way under the bus and has not been as recognized, unfortunately, as some other Disney films. And I'll kind of go into my reasoning as to why I think that is. And I will also provide you context as to what the story is about and the characters and so on and so forth. So without further ado, let me first discuss what this story is about. Well, basically, The Rescuers from Down Under follows this young boy who sort of develops a relationship with an eagle that he ends up saving. And as a result is captured by this poacher played by George C. Scott, who ultimately wants to know where the bird is because he happens to know that the boy knows where the bird is. So he kind of just takes him and uses him as a means to get what he wants. And this gets word to the rescuers, who come to Australia, because that's where it takes place. Rescuers Down Under, Land Down Under, it's Australia. And basically, they come in with their seagull. I believe he's supposed to be a seagull. And basically, they try to help find the boy and release him from being captured. So really that's the film in a nutshell, and it is a very adventure-oriented film. The Rescuers films are, I think, intended to be rather goal-oriented, that there's a journey and a process. So I think there is, again, a little bit more focus on the adventure, but there still are good characters that come out of this film. The two rescuer mouses that are in charge of trying to go and save the boy, they're very likable. The seagull that helps them out is also very likable. The villain, who's played by George C. Scott, is just, that's pretty awesome. I mean, if you could get George C. Scott to do a voiceover for a villain, that's pretty cool. Maybe not as Vincent Price status, but that's still pretty good. And he even though he's a very despicable villain, there's still some character to him, and you do feel like he really wants to get ultimately what he feels he's entitled to. And then you have the boy who, although I would say, even though he's the main character, he's maybe not the most compelling. But regardless, he sort of is a means to an end for the rescuers in particular, who really are the main characters of the story. But what I think this movie does really well is not only executing good plot and good characters and good dialogue, there's also brilliant animation. It's really well executed, the animation. You know, when the eagle is flying, it's very grand, and you really do feel you're within that emotional mindset. And I think that's really something to I think that's those sequences are really able to get you absorbed into the film. Because there's a lot of emotion behind them, and animation is largely based on emotion, and a lot of Disney films have focused in on the emotions of animation. So even though it has all of these good elements, it also, on top of that, executes itself in a way that I think reflects a lot of Disney films and animation in general. Unfortunately, I think this film got put under the bus for several reasons. There's one reason that the Nostalgia Critic mentioned, and that it doesn't have the Disney traditional trademark. Like, there's no songs in this movie in particular. There's nothing. There's no fairy tale. It's not really based off of anything. It's just designed to be what it is, and that might bother some people because it's not something that's, I guess, traditionally Disney. But personally, I think that works to the film's advantage because it allows the film to stand out as a whole. I also think, too, that maybe a reason that it's underrated is the lack of, I think, advertisement for it. And I remember seeing, too, that there, at least for me, I did see some advertisement for it when I was little, but I don't think it was thoroughly explained to me, like, what the film was about. And I think that, having these bits of animation, like, not really make sense, like, you're to the point where you're confused, I think is probably what made it difficult, because I think they wanted to make it feel like it was a traditional Disney animated film, but then you realize it's not. So maybe that's something that maybe deterred audiences. I'm trying to think of anything else that could have made an impact. Again, the fact that the advertising was low, the fact that Disney focused on trying to be a little bit non-traditional. I guess also it could have been that since Disney had such, I find this really strange too, like how this one was really the only one that got kind of put under the bus, and everything else after that was pretty much well recognized and heard of. I think a reasoning for this might be the fact that not only was there less advertisement, but maybe there was less of a focus on it. And I think it came like right, because Beauty and the Beast came out in 91, Little Mermaid 89. So that means that was only a technically 2-year difference between the two major films. And so they probably were already in the stages, once they were sort of done with The Little Mermaid, already having this film be in the forefront. But and they probably also focused a lot on Beauty and the Beast, probably at the same time as they were focusing maybe on wrapping up this film. So there might have been a lot of different things going on, and it might have resulted in them not putting a huge emphasis on this film in particular. I think that could have been a reason, because again, the time gap is very, very small between The Little Mermaid, this film, and then Beauty and the Beast. So I think that could have been a reason. And I think that, again, the Beauty and the Beast is one of the more recognized works, and so I think maybe more detail and attention was given to it, as opposed to something that is sort of non-traditional and not really part of Disney's traditional kind of trademark. So I think that's really ultimately, though, these reasons that I've come up with, I think, are really what has deterred the film from being as successful. But I think it's definitely worth considering. I really enjoy it as a Disney film. I think it executes itself really well and is worth a recommendation. I would say this is probably the most underrated animated film, probably next to The Iron Giant, I'd say. Probably the second most underrated animated film that I think I've ever seen. But ultimately, I think that's really all I can say about this film without giving anything away. However, if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I would be more than happy to answer them. But until next time, everybody, bye-bye.